For the girls and women who are talented, passionate, and driven.
For the girls and women who get excited about solving problems using numbers.
For the girls and women who are drawn to cars and want to know how they work.
For girls and women who want to save the planet through technology.
For the girls and women whose passion for something comes easy when their career does not. We see you and understand your interests and desire to make a difference pursuing a career in science, engineering, technology, and math.
We are Trailblazers Live.
Our mission is to create meaningful videos and content that inspires STEM pathways, empower new possibilities for future career pathways, and connect powerfully with women and girls everywhere for an equitable future.
We are ridiculously committed to connecting problems of tomorrow with the people who need to solve them.
We are calling you forth to join us.
Sponsor us and subscribe now.
We are for the girls and women, and our future is waiting.
That gets me every single time. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Trailblazers Live. We have our Women in Engineering panel here lined up. We are excited to spend this time sharing the inspirational stories with our special guests here today. I'm Sarah Patnode, co-owner of Misfits Media, and I will be producing the event with Get Consulting. So get your questions ready. We're going to have a Q&A section at the end of this live broadcast. And again, we are live, so anything can happen. So let's get ready to launch our next Trailblazers Live panel. I'm going to hand this over to Amanda Savarsky to kick us off. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So as Sarah mentioned, we are coming to you live from our home office production studios. I'm your host today, Amanda Savarsky with Misfits Media. Trailblazers Live is the brand evolution of the mentoring event panel model, originally created by Million Women Mentors Minnesota and Kiat as a vehicle to expose, experience, and encourage more women and girls towards careers in STEM. So why does this movement matter? Before we jump into the panel, I always go back to the reason we're here today. Although women represent 50% of the workforce, women are less than 24% of the STEM workforce. Worse yet, 50% of those women drop out of their careers within the first 10 years. With recent data suggesting that graduation rates for women with STEM degrees are declining, this is no longer just a women's economic issue. This gender-based educational and skills gap will lead to significant disparities between the qualifications of women entering the workforce and companies being able to adequately source their open positions now and in the future. So what is the motivation to evolve our model? Well, we used to have an in-person panel model, and we have to evolve it because of the pandemic. Young women at key decision points of their lives have lost several of the common channels that many of them utilize to guide them along their career pathways. Our goal is just to provide those young women a virtual alternative through our Trailblazers Live YouTube channel and Facebook live streams to supplement the absence of these support channels and give them an opportunity to research and learn more about the world of STEM from other young women who have blazed STEM trails before them. Today's panel will be to rock star engineers that are blazing trails at their organizations. I'm going to first kick it off before we dive into our panelist questions and ask each of them to just give you a brief introduction. Danielle?
Hi, I'm Danielle Renham. I'm the quality control engineer at WCCO Belting up in Wahpeton, North Dakota. Graduate of North Dakota State University and been working at WCCO for the last about 4 years.
Hi, I'm Jenny Gibbs. I am a principal systems engineer at Boston Scientific in Maple Grove, Minnesota. And just kind of a quick, what is a systems engineer? Since I frequently get the question of what that is and what that means. I think of it a little bit as like an architect versus a builder. Systems engineer really concentrates on what are the different components and architecting a plan and putting it all together. So I've been at Boston Scientific and doing that at Boston Scientific for a year, and then previously worked at Abbott for 6 years.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those introductions. So let's jump forward to our first panelist question. Tell us about your trailblazing educational journey to become an engineer. Danielle, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So I probably took just a typical path. In high school and elementary school, middle school, I liked math. I liked science. I wouldn't say they were my favorite courses. I was definitely like a gym kid. That was my favorite class. But enjoyed all those classes, did pretty well at them, did all the fun, nerdy stuff that you got to do, be in chemistry club and take AP classes and exciting stuff like that. Watch Calculus, the musical. That's a good time. And then I went up to North Dakota State University for college, where I pursued my mechanical engineering degree. Graduated with that in about 4.5 years while playing softball for the NDSU Bison, as the first Division I softball player to graduate from engineering there. So that was really exciting for me and probably a big driver. And then I needed one more semester of school so that I could keep playing softball. And I started my master's business administration. Really loved that, and then graduated with that 2 years later. So throughout that, I started an internship at WCCO, like my junior year or something like that. Loved it, had a great fit, and was able to get a position there when I graduated. And I've been there ever since. So I'm in the quality control position there.
Okay. So I took a much more atypical path to get where I am today. In high school, I've always had a passion for science, particularly biology. And also kind of my other main passion was theater. I did a lot of theater work when I was in high school. And somewhere around my middle of my high school career, I got an opportunity to go to Costa Rica and follow an ecologist around the jungle for about a month. And he was an ecologist, so he focused a lot on systems and how systems interact in nature. And I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. And at that point in my life, I was like, I am definitely going to move to a tropical country at some point and do this for the rest of my life. I'm going to become a biologist. So I went to college at the University of Minnesota and did a double major in genetics and ecology, mostly because I thought they were both cool. And I got a job about halfway through my college career. I did realize that the life path of living in the jungle was probably not going to sustain a family and all of those other things that I wanted. So I thought I'm going to maybe split my focus to something that is more concrete, that I could stay here. And so while I was getting my degree in biology, I got a job at a veterinary clinic as a technician there. So I kind of learned how to do put in catheters, intubate, do dental cleanings on animals, which was really, really cool and fun. And around the time I graduated, I thought, I'm going to be a veterinarian. That's what I decided. I'm going to go to school to be a veterinarian. And then after that, I realized that I didn't want to go to school for an additional 4 years to become a veterinarian. And so I started kind of exploring other careers, and I found a place called American Preclinical Services that does preclinical research, and that worked more with medical devices. So I got a job there and just really, really liked it. And at some point we worked a lot with larger medical device companies, Boston Scientific, St. Jude, Abbott. And so I made a connection with one of the people at Abbott and ended up getting a job as an engineer over at Abbott and worked in the clinical engineering. And then after some time there, I started getting more of an interest in systems engineering. And I kind of talked in the beginning about how systems engineering is connecting things and putting pieces together. Well, my background with ecology and biology was also putting systems together, but more in nature. So I think just kind of the way I think, it was a really good fit for me, and I transitioned into systems engineering, and then that's what I do today.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. All right, let's jump to the next question. Tell our viewers about yourself and your passions and how an engineer aligns with those passions. I think a lot of times the reputation is that a STEM career isn't enjoyable or feeling inducing. And so the next couple of questions is really meant to resonate with how you're connecting the job that you do with your passions and purpose in life. Danielle?
Yeah, I guess I don't have those feelings at all about STEM as a boring career. I guess my I am lucky in that sense that everything that I do right now at work, I get to be really passionate about, and I get to put my passions through it. Even though at home, I'm big on personal growth, team building. I'm a big team-oriented person. And so I guess my little team at home, my wife and our 2 dogs, we love doing the outdoor stuff and camping and hiking and bike riding and growing and learning as a unit together. And those things I'm able to translate to work. I get to work with different people all the time, help us all grow together. We're all big, giant team there. I have my small personal team in the quality department and my process engineering group. And all of us are able to work. We work in manufacturing, so it's big hands-on stuff. Change processes, change the way we do things, and be analytical about what we do. And I love all that stuff. I get to be hands-on, working with people, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and changing things on the floor, on the fly, being able to identify problems that people are having and hopefully find solutions to those. So that's the stuff that I get really excited about.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting hearing what your opinion there, Danielle, because I think mine's very similar, but different. Different companies, probably different stuff we work on. But I would also list, people is a huge passion for me. I love teams. I love working with people. I love mentoring and watching younger engineers kind of grow and develop. I love problem solving, and there is plenty of that as an engineer. Is just from people problems to technical problems to structural problems. We get a lot of them, and my job is to kind of help solve any and all of them. And I think I really, really love biology, and I really like what I do with medical devices because it gives me an opportunity to take the biology background that I love and feel so passionately about, like biology and physiology, and something that you can apply it to with making medical devices that are going to save people's lives, which is just huge and awesome and super, super, super fun. And then the other piece is actually getting to do stuff like this. I feel really, really passionate about getting more women involved in STEM because I think it's just huge. And one, I love being able to do stuff like this. And Boston Scientific is extremely supportive and allowing me to take these opportunities to come and talk with people. So that's another one of my other passions.
Awesome. And we love to provide the platform. So perfect pair. All right. So describe a day in the life of an engineer. And one of the second parts of this question, or maybe you can answer it holistically, is really to speak to if and how the pandemic has impacted what you do, how you do it, in your job responsibility. I think it really takes then what is the job description that you would find in a box and apply for, and connect it to how that might change on the ground, right? Every day based on where the current situation is in the world. So Danielle, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. So a day in the life for me as a quality control engineer, typically it involves a lot of analyzing patterns and different opportunities on the floor or different situations that we're experiencing with our products. So we call things that aren't going our way, instead of problems, we just call them opportunities. And so that's drastically, it's changed the way that we look at different challenges. And so usually we try and take it that way with a more positive approach. But like my typical day, I'm trying to start out the morning doing warranty, any of the products that come back, analyze those, check to see what's going wrong, understand what obstacles our customers are having so that we can help problem solve there. And then throughout the day, I have usually a bunch of meetings. because quality is usually involved in quite a bit of stuff. And then typically evolving into helping out my quality techs. They're doing on the floor quality inspections or quality incidents. And so if they need my help or decisions or opinion on the matter, I'll come over and offer that. Then we, coordinating a lot of quality efforts. So we're doing testing, inspections, warranty, trying to figure out all that. Through, I guess, the second part, how the pandemic's affected it, we are a essential business. We supply agricultural belting to the agriculture business. So we help supply the products that are able to feed the world. So that's really rewarding. But it means that we all stayed at work. We had to change a few stuff right away. We spread out. And so people weren't in offices standing next to each other and whatnot. It's a little tricky on the floor because there's a lot of processes that people are standing right next to each other. But we've done our best doing a lot of cleaning and all that kind of stuff. The one thing that's been really nice for me, because I love to have like 100 things going on at a time, is a ton of our meetings went online. So you're doing all of these like Zoom calls, or we use Microsoft Teams, which means, so I'm always on the floor and our conference room is way up front. And I used to have to like sprint all the way up to the front and just like hopefully get to meetings on time. And I was usually on time because in softball, you had to be bison time, which if you weren't on time, you were running. So I'm pretty good at, making sure I get there. But now I can just like jump in on calls on my phone or jump back to my computer and jump on calls. So that's been really nice. That's been the big change for me. But everything else, we've tried to adjust as best as possible with the pandemic and all the situations that are going there. We're supplying essential items, so doing our best to get that stuff out the door in the best quality.
I love what you said, Danielle, about it's not problems, but opportunities to streamline things. I'm going to use that. I think, Danielle, kind of similar for me too. I'm a team lead, so I spend kind of most of my time in meetings and kind of coordinating things and different activities that the rest of the team is doing. I also, help with when we do like physician feedback and feedback from our actual users and customers, which is probably one of my favorite parts of my job, is getting to interact and talk with them. That piece looks quite a bit different now with the pandemic because we can't do a lot of that kind of stuff in person. So that was kind of one of our bigger shifts. I also spend a lot of time kind of analyzing problems and thinking about system architecture. And part of the main part of my job is working directly with our marketing team to assess what are the products that our customers really need, what is driving them, what's the gap, and writing what we call user needs. And I spend a lot of time kind of thinking through that and what does the early product design need to be to meet the user needs and meet the marketing expectation. Hence why I spend a lot of time on the front end with physicians and technicians. So transition to the next part, how it's impacted. So usually we work all together, and we have for the most part, our team all went home, and we're doing working through Zoom calls, or we also use Teams most of the time. And I think that's been a pretty major change because we're used to being able to very quickly bounce ideas off of one another, and we've all had to kind of get used to, normally you can have a quick conversation, quick question here, a lot more, team alignment and team building that you're able to do in person that went offline. And so that was a bit of an adjustment, and you have to be a little bit more proactive about communication and finding people and setting up meetings. So it did mean more meetings for me. Yeah. And I think there's definitely some major advantages to it. Like it was snowing today. I didn't have to drive anywhere. I generally have pajama pants down here and a nicer top up here. You had to be in comfy pants. So that's a kind of a nice aspect to it, but it's definitely been a challenge. And I think the major challenge we've had is how do we stay connected with our customers and get feedback in a global pandemic where we're not able to see them face to face. So we had to spend some amount of time of thinking about how do we get our the things that we want to showcase, to talk through the questions into a virtual platform. And we have done that, but it was definitely a challenge. So.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. All right. So now, what are the cool things that an engineer does that enhances the lives of others and or makes the world a better place? And I know you've touched on this a little bit in previous questions. If you have anything to add on to what you've already stated, if you could let us know.
I'll jump in. So I mean, the cool nerdy things that I get to do, I'm not doing the same thing that a lot of my colleagues are doing. So a lot of them are spending time doing different 3D modeling, whether it's new products, whether it's new processes, big machines, small machines, things that are helpful. I'm doing a lot of analyzing. So I get to spend time in Excel and Power BI, which is a different spreadsheet module. And I get to do a lot of pictures and analyzing all that kind of stuff to see patterns. And I like that part personally more than what they do. And then one cool thing that, because I get to analyze those patterns, I can see where we have those different opportunities. And then I get to tell them, hey, we should focus on this. And I kind of feel like sometimes the driver of different things that we get to address. And obviously being able to do that really identifies the different opportunities that we find for customers, and being able to send them the best quality product that meets or exceeds their expectations is really rewarding. We really try to connect with our customers. Obviously right now with the pandemic, it's very difficult. We've got customers all over the world, and trying to connect with them. Usually I always get the rough side of things when things aren't going right is when I get to step in, unfortunately. But trying to communicate verbally that way through pictures, through videos all around the world has been very interesting through the pandemic. But it's kind of the nerdy stuff that I get to do, and I get excited about that.
Yeah, so I'll say I'll kind of start before I answer this question, just giving you guys a brief what product I work on. So I work on something that's called IVUS, intravascular ultrasound. And so what that is we take a little catheter and that's thin and long, and actually we put it into your vascular system and up into your heart, and it can take ultrasound pictures of the inside of your coronary arteries. And what that really does is it helps understand what is going on inside your coronary arteries to help physicians decide how they should treat to prevent heart attacks. So things like deciding stenting and how we treat those vessels. And I think it's just so cool. My favorite part of my job is we spend a long time, research and development takes a long time, product development takes a long time. And so we're building all of these pieces in order to make that system to ultimately enable a physician to be able to help save lives, which is super cool. And I think, and I like kind of talking about this because I think when I was in college and kind of going through, especially with biology, I knew I really liked physiology, and I thought about, veterinarian or a doctor, and finding out that there's this whole part of engineering that really does tie in the medical part. If that's something you're interested in, it does exist. There's a lot of engineers all across kind of the medical device portion, a lot of different types of engineering and a lot of cool stuff to do. But with that ultimate, you get to help make medical devices. So that's my favorite part.
I love that feedback. I do think one of the greatest kind of ahas that even I've learned as we've been having these conversations over the past few years is just the depth and breadth, to your point, of the healthcare field. Healthcare/engineering, there's such integration a lot of times, and there's almost a flavor for any personality type. It's not just nurse or doctor, to your point. There's so many ways that individuals can insert themselves more aligned with what their passions are and their skill sets, right? And their education, etc. So, all right. So Sarah, I think we are at the live Q&A. I'm going to hand it over to you and see if we've got any questions coming in from the audience.
Well, thank you so much. I do have to say, Jenny, I was recently on with the American Heart Association with Jacqueline Londo, and it was very interesting, the stat, especially for women, like 1 in 3 women will experience some sort of heart attack or heart symptom, right? And so there's a big spectrum on that. And so I think what's so important is the work that you're doing that is saving lives, right? And we're women on the panel here today. And so I just wanted to bring that up because it made me think about that. Like, wow, that is so totally great. And then, thinking about, Danielle, what you're doing and the impact of helping to, helping people's lives and in improving lives. And that really is noble. And it's something that is like purposeful, right? Because we want to do things that are purposeful. So I think that is so totally great. And the other thing I wanted to say, I just love flipping that coin from problems to opportunity. I think that it's all about perspective right now. So thank you so much for bringing that up and echoing that. That is so wonderful. So we do have some questions that have come in here. And so let me go ahead. I'll ask the first question coming in here from Julia. And Danielle and Jenny, you can just jump in here. Julia is asking, did you have a required class in school that you struggled with, and how did you get through it?
I can jump in so Danielle doesn't have to go first every time. Yes, I had I think I struggled the most with physics and calculus. I think all my classes were hard, so every part was a struggle in college, but physics and calculus particularly were the hardest for me. And I had a calculus professor that particularly wanted, he was a brilliant guy, not so great at teaching. So not only was it a hard subject, but it was very hard to kind of follow what he was going through. And I had started off too being very intimidated by even taking the class, because I think, from a young age, we're kind of beaten into us that math is hard and math is hard. And to Danielle's point, I think I went into it and I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. And then it was hard. But so I actually was fortunate enough to, my older brother is also an engineer. And so he had gone through calculus before, and I had just kind of sat down with him and was like, help, I have to get through this, and please help mentor me. That point in my life, I think I'd mentioned in my intro that I was a kind of a split focus between in high school with math, science, and theater. And at that point, I had decided, forget this, I'm going to go to drama. I'm going to be an actress, and I'm going to be on Broadway. I'll be super successful. It's all going to be fine. And I told my brother this when I said, I can't do calculus. I can't, it's too hard. And he sat me down and kind of was like, okay, so career path wise, how do we think? And theater is a great option too. But he was like, career path wise, like, where do we think the more viable option is, engineering or in theater, as far as like having a stable career and stuff like that. So I opted to stick it out. He helped me through calculus, and that was my freshman year. And I was so glad I did, because this job is just a much better fit for me.
And I definitely feel on those college classes. Every spring when we would be traveling for softball, I don't think it really mattered what class I was taking, but we'd be gone. Well, we were only in Fargo because obviously most of the time out here it's snowing, so it's really hard to play softball in the snow. So for like the first 4 months of school, we were only in town 3 out of 7 days a week. So pretty much all my classes during then, I guess, were hard. But in high school and then later on in my master's, I had to take macroeconomics, and the psychology of how people affect math, I just could not. I've never written so many note cards in my whole entire life. And I still cannot tell you a whole lot about macroeconomics, but I sure got through it. Jenny, I feel you with sometimes you just got to have somebody there to help you through. My mom is an accountant or a CPA, and at the time in high school, she helped me through it. And I was like, okay, I did it once. I can do it in my master's again. I just got to write all these note cards again. And I wrote everything down. I don't use note cards a whole lot, but I think I went through stacks and stacks and stacks in economics. So something about that people affecting math. Math is math. Math is, it just goes this way. It can't be influenced. And I didn't like that.
You're not alone. I have to say, I took a macroeconomics class in my undergraduate, and it was a night class, and not good. That like 4 hours, not good. So I'm saying to you, I totally hear you on all of that. It's like make sure to set yourself up for success. That would be a tip that I would have. But yeah, no, I think that that's great, and thank you for sharing. For both of you, I do think that it makes a difference when you have somebody supporting you and someone saying look at this again or yes you can do this. And oftentimes I've heard in these panel discussions throughout our events that sometimes it was just somebody saying you can do this, and that's like inspired and put that woman on that path. And so I think that that is such great feedback. So we do have another question here that came in, and the question here is was there a defining moment that pivoted your life to pursue your career? What was that, or what was that made a difference? So I know, Jenny, that you had talked a little bit, about that moment. But is there anything else that you can share on that defining moment for you?
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. That was probably the defining moment that really kind of where I got to see what science looked like in action and see it applied. And I just, like I said, I fell in love with it and I thought it was so cool. Um, I will say that I think there's been other kind of that set me down the biology track. I think there's been kind of other defining moments that kind of put me down more towards where I am today. And I guess probably my biggest thing would be my brother. He is always been a really huge mentor to me and he started in medical device. He's about 9 years older than me. So he started in medical device before I did. And he's sort of the one that was like, oh, hey, by the way, engineering is really cool. And I was like, no, it's boring. There's so much math. I hated that calculus class. You're a liar. And he's like, no, it is really cool. Stick with it. Stick with it. And I think throughout my whole life was like, you can do this. You can do this. And then once he kind of helped connect me to, hey, like, because he used to go to the preclinical lab that I had started with. He was like, hey, there's this cool preclinical lab and they do this stuff. Do you want to, check it out? So I did. And then after that, he was sort of kind of kept encouraging me to steer towards this engineering path. And then once I started down it and saw like how cool medical devices were and what an impact it was, I think that kind of shifted my career focus again to say like, oh, here's a different way to apply this. And I actually really aligns with all of my passions.
Yeah, and obviously mine was a little bit more straightforward than all of Jenny's past, but I think I probably had like maybe 3 just quick pivotal moments that at the time I didn't know about it, but looking back, I can kind of say that's how I got here. The first was when I was on my official visit at NDSU, and I was talking with Kelly Lehman, who is our academic athletic advisor, and I said, I'm trying to decide if I want to go into architecture or into engineering. And she was like, if you want to do softball, you're probably going to have to do engineering because there's a lot more studio time in architecture. Not that either one was harder than the other, but just the class schedule. And it felt kind of like, when you're picking between two choices and you're like, oh, I'm going to flip a coin and figure out which one I want. And while it's in the air, you were like, yep, this is the one I want. And that was kind of like, yep, I'm definitely good with engineering. That's the one I think that I like and I'm more passionate about. And that ended up obviously as a great choice in the path. And then the other one, during my internship, I was working in our Baylor department at WCCO, and they tasked me with trying to improve the area so that it would be faster, so we could get more product out the door, and maybe less labor intensive for those guys back there. And everyone kept telling me, they don't like to change. You're not going to be able to do anything successful back there. They just kind of gave you a dead project for an intern, all those interns, you just go off over there and figure it out. But it was actually, so I went over there and I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never been in agriculture or farming. I barely knew how to be an engineer. So I just spent a couple of days back there watching and learning and listening to those guys and doing time trials, especially. And then I had all my data and all the information about, different ways that Google had told me how to improve different processes. And I laid that out with those guys and I said, okay, how do we improve? Like, how do we change this? And I it was like the first time that those guys had really been involved in their own process. And so we were able to make big changes. We did a whole different layout setup. And those changes are still in place, and it was really successful. And that's kind of where I was like, okay, I don't have to know everything. I just have to surround myself with the people that do. And that I found a ton of success that way, and being able to work with others, because people don't like change that they're not a part of. And I think that was a big defining moment that said, if I want to be successful, I have to involve other people. And then the last quick one, pretty much how I got into quality. Our other quality engineer, he left for like a 10-month military leave. And so then I had to step into the quality position because I was kind of more in a lean manufacturing position before that. Stepped into that, helped take over, make sure that we still stayed afloat in the quality department, and ended up loving it. Loved to be able to do the analyzing, the opportunities, the patterns, being able to help on that side, the more personal side. So those were the kind of 3 defining moments of how I got to a position that I love and I'm really passionate about.
I think that's so great. Thank you both for sharing those things. I think brothers are awesome. I have 2. I mean, it just makes a difference when you have someone that goes, before you, and can give you that wisdom and that mentorship. And I just love that. And I think what's really important, I love, Danielle, what you talked about, where you were trusting your gut on your decision, and how often maybe we don't do that. Like, check in on the gut and check in and see. My dog may bark. We are going live here, so apparently I'm getting a delivery. Sorry about that. But I think that's important. Like, trust your gut, check in on your pathway. Are you doing your pathway, and make sure it's not somebody else's? I think that's awesome when you're living your best life that way. And so I think that's great for all the listeners out there, for you to think about that, on your own pathway, and, finding that mentor, and having that ability to learn, right? You don't need to know everything, right? That's a barrier to learning when you say you know it all. So I think that's really great advice too, is to just open yourself up. So I think we have another question in here. So we have a question coming in saying, how do you stay focused to obtain your goal in your chosen field? So I'll let you guys take that away. What did you do with focus? Because, sometimes it can get hard. So how do you keep that focus?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in and say, my career, you aren't always going to know the end goal when you start. So when you say stay focused, I think that feels very difficult in the moment, especially when you're younger. And I remember early in my career, I didn't know where I was going. So it felt really hard to focus, because like I said, I kind of started off, I think I didn't even mention, I started working at a zoo, and then I worked in a vet clinic, and then I worked here. And it was like, I would have never, ever, ever guessed that I'd end up in a medical device as an engineering position. So when I started out, so I think staying focused is good, but also open yourself up to understanding that your life will take you on a journey. Your career is going to take you on a journey, and that's okay. And I think as far as the staying focused part, the biggest thing for me is you are, and you had just said it, Sarah, so I just kind of love that. And I'm going to add on to it too. You are always going to be in an area that you're uncomfortable when you're moving and growing and trying something, especially in a technical field. I think there's been so many moments in my life where I've been sitting, thinking through something, having somebody tell me something, and like, how did I get here? I have no idea what this person's talking about. And I think just believing in yourself and knowing that, like, you can learn, you're never going to understand the job when you first start, and just be willing to grow and change. And sorry, lots of kids at home. If you heard the crashing, just knowing that when you look back 5 years from now, you're going to wonder, oh, of course I knew how to do that. How did I ever doubt myself? So don't doubt yourself. And I think that's the biggest piece of how I've been able to stay focused. And also trying to keep the kids away from work as much as you can.
We're all learning and growing. And this is the current challenge on our horizon. No problem.
Yeah. I'm just going to build off that and say, just like Jenny said, you have no idea where you might be in 5 years or what that end goal is and how to focus on that. but I think the one thing that you can pick is more, vague goals of, hey, in 5 years, I want to be helping people. I want to be making an impact. I don't know if I'm going to be working at a zoo or if I'm going to be working at a medical clinic, but I know somehow, some way, I'm going to be doing this. And then one thing that I like to do is, break it down a little bit smaller. So, the next 6 months, what do I want to be doing? What project do I want to accomplish? And then helping to make those smaller concrete goals. Sometimes it's hard for me to focus. I got a lot of ADHD sometimes going on, but I also am really strong in competition and achiever. If you haven't taken Clifton Strengths before to get your top strengths, I highly recommend. My through and through, no matter how many times I take it, is competition. And so that helps me focus a ton. I'm able to drive through. I don't always know the end goal, but I know what I want the end feeling to be. And then something that I've taken from softball is we said championship backwards. We took that from my old coach, Jamie Traxel, and she said championship backwards. So have a goal in mind, have that focus in mind, and then figure out what you got to do today to take steps toward that. And that's something that I try and go with day in and day out. Whether it's competing, whether that's making some people don't like the competition, but I try to peel that back when it is not beneficial for others, but always achieving and striding and taking those different goals every day.
That's a really great point too, Danielle. I just want to piggyback one thing off of it too. I think as I've learned more and more in my career, you're totally right. Sometimes that goal looks hazy, but I have a pretty lofty goal for myself where I know that I want to be in a leadership position at some point. And I don't necessarily know today what that looks like or how that path is going to be there, but having a target to shoot for has helped me start building what are the little building blocks that I might need to do to get there. And that goal may look different in 10 years from now, but that's such an excellent point of starting to think about those little concrete things you can do to get to that point.
That's really great, Jenny. There's a compound effect that happens when you break it down into those manageable goals that you do every day. And it does bring you to something that is the big goal, which is totally awesome. And Danielle, I have to say, the Strengths Finder is totally awesome. When I worked at Anoka Technical College, that was part of the admissions orientation, is that everyone was able to get their strengths. And it is a wonderful tool. And what we'll do is I'll put some more information into the comment section after this for anyone who is interested in taking that. The strengths are wonderful to help you with goal setting and to think about, how you can utilize those strengths to move you forward. So that is so totally awesome. Thank you for putting that resource out there. Let's do one more question here. I've got one more question that has come in before we close. And so I've got a question that came in this is good. What was the hardest or most challenging experience you had in your career that you attribute to being female, and how did you handle it?
Oh, go ahead, Danielle.
I was just going to say, that's a tough question. I don't know. I'm on a full team. I'm the only female engineer at WCCO. We're not overly large, so I guess it doesn't feel too big. I graduated with 8 out of 60 at NDSU. So Jenny, if you have an answer, I'm going to let you be.
Yeah, I do have a specific example that I think I've had it happen a few times to me in my career. There's one specific example where it happened, and it was almost pretty derailing, where I ran into a person that saw me as not technical. And that was sort of the driving message was, why is she here? She's not very technical. And especially, I think, given my background, it's like I said, I think as a systems engineer, a lot of what I'm doing is looking for connections, and but I have a background in biology and not, I didn't do software engineering or hardware engineering. And I had this person kind of tell me, hey, you're not very technical. And I was like, what does that even mean? What do you mean technical? And there was some other events that kind of surrounded it, but it was a pretty big moment where I thought, why am I even here? Maybe I should give up because I'm not technical. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have the right background. And I think what got me through it was I do have a lot of I've had, I talked about my brother and he's always been a constant, but I've had a lot of very strong mentors, both, male mentors and female, but a lot of like really, really strong women mentors who are in STEM. And we're like, you are enough. You're good. Keep going. You're smart. Good. Keep going. And I think it's hard. It's when you get that self-doubt, that seed of self-doubt, it's really hard to get out of it. Make sure you don't quiet that voice, and make sure you just remember you can do this. You are smart. You are enough. You're great. Keep going. And that's what got me out of it. But that was definitely the hardest situation I've been in. But yeah, I got through it. So.
Yeah, I guess I'll piggyback off of that. It's about the people that you surround yourself with, and the mentors that you have and the support system that you have. My group at work is amazing. I've never felt like I'm singled out. I'm the only female engineer. My group during school was great, and I never felt different, except when I would come to practice or come to class after practice and I'm eating snacks or like eating the whole time. Then I felt different. But I've been in those situations where not at with my group at work, but if we're meeting like with a customer or with someone else outside, and I can tell sometimes, and maybe first, especially when I started, and they didn't know who I was so much that they were like, "Why is this girl here? Like who is she? Why is she involved? She doesn't need to hear about this stuff. She has nothing to do with this." When it was about quality stuff, it was about their products, and it was very much my job. And yeah, like Jenny said, it's about the people that are surrounding with you. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of female STEM mentors, but all of my male colleagues are amazing. They have helped me develop so much and taught me a whole bunch. They make me feel confident all the time and don't make me feel like I'm different because I'm not a male. And, that's been so valuable for me to go forward. And yeah, that's a tough question.
That's a good question, though. That's a great question.
A very good question, and it gets to the heart of why we're here today, and why we want the women and girls who are watching this program now live or in the future. We want you to know that we do see you, we hear you, and we know that you can do it. And if you ever have a question about it, reach out to us because we will remind you. This is what this is all about. So I think that this is so totally great. That is the end of our questions that we have here. I just wanted to acknowledge Danielle and Jenny. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's so powerful, the things that you've just shared with us. I mean, that's such a vulnerable conversation to be in. And my hope is that the girls and women will watch this and know that they can move this forward. And so I'm going to hand this back over to Amanda to wrap us up, and we'll go from there. So Amanda?
Yeah, the last question that we have is really just any final words of advice to young women considering a career in engineering, but maybe not be sure how or where to begin.
Yeah, I'll start out with a couple of things. I think one, watching this video or being here is a great start. Find someone who is an engineer, ask to shadow, reach out through email. And at most people I've found, when you reach out and say like, hey, what is it that you do? Can you talk to me? Are more than happy to do it. I'll speak for myself personally too. 100% more than happy to do that. And I think that's a lot of where I actually got some of my starts was before I even got the job, as I reached out and said, what is the job? Who are you? Can I meet with you? And the other piece is too, there's such a breadth of engineering that once you find someone that can start talking to you about it, ask questions like, what does an engineer do? and look everywhere. And Danielle and I are two examples from a very different agriculture and medical device. Engineers are everywhere, so look and find them. And I think too, just once you get into the career, two pieces that I've hit on, but I think they're two of the most crucial things in my career that I want to leave you guys with. One is find a mentor. Find a mentor, because you are going to hit hard parts. You are going to hit times where you doubt yourself or you don't know where to go next, and having someone to tell you you've got this is huge. And I think, remember that you do have this, believe in yourself, and just and knowing that, push through those more difficult times.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just like you said, Jenny, and we've both shared experiences where those mentors or someone that you trust has been, a pivotal moment. Your brother helped you through calculus and a ton of other stuff. I've had a ton of people help me through different classes, through different obstacles. Having that support system is huge. But then also just being curious. Advice to young women considering a career in engineering: be curious about it. Look into different things. You don't have to know what you want to do. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know what kind of engineering I wanted to go into. I didn't know, obviously I didn't know if I wanted to do architecture or engineering. There's so many things that were unknown. Don't let that stop you. Start somewhere. Start taking some classes. Obviously stay in that math and that science. But just like Jenny's path and my path, there's different areas that you can go in. You'll find yourself falling in line with something that you become passionate about. And don't just because you already don't know about it, don't let that hold you back. There's so many things out there that you can go into in engineering or any different STEM field that you don't even know about yet. So be curious. That's my biggest word of advice.
Oh, I forgot one thing I wanted to add. Calculus isn't that bad.
No, it's not. Musical is worth it. It's it.
Mm-hmm.
Good time. I think you can find it on YouTube. I don't know about it in real life anymore. But
I'm gonna get back to my calculus days.
All right. So what we pulled up on the slide here is both the Million Women Mentors Minnesota. So we talked a little bit at the very beginning about our origin story. We have a pretty significant social media following on our channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram. I guess Trailblazers Live is on YouTube, but also LinkedIn. And also we just initiated officially our Trailblazers Live channels as well. If you or someone you know is a women blazing trails in STEM, we want to hear from you. And if you would like to participate on one of these panels in the future, email us, and you can see it there listed at the top of the screen at trailblazerslive@kiat.com. Or I want to also touch back on what Sarah mentioned. If you're struggling and you need someone to remind you how extraordinary you are, please also use that email address. And we commit to you. We will remind you if you need that from us. Okay. Yeah.
100%.
Sarah, you want to close us out?
Thank you again. This has been just an extraordinary time with all of you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for inspiring us. And we look forward to what's to come as this message goes out there. And this will make a difference. We don't know how, but we know that it will make a difference in somebody that will listen to this, that will help them with their career path. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being on. I did add in the StrengthsFinder information on the comments, so everyone look for that. And we're going to send you off with a big Trails Blaze. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Trails
you.
Blazed. Thank you.